What's up guys, Josh here. Today I wanted to talk about a really interesting topic that is really going to blow your mind, and it's something that you'd really be surprised to hear with all the topics that I discuss, which are 85% EVs, because that's what the auto industry is leaning towards very slowly. So, got something today that's quite the opposite of what you would normally expect to hear. Just a little bit. With that, let's get into today's video. So, Toyota and Yamaha made a hydrogen engine together. Try to extend the lifespan of internal combustion engines, meaning gas-powered cars and trucks, as long as they possibly can before they're unfortunately forced to switch to EVs, which is slowly going to start creeping up our way. I'm sure everyone's heard of hydrogen in like science class and any type of other class like that, and it's basically like a simple type of gas with not much in it. It's a colorless, odorless, tasteless. Oh, it feels so good. You get the point. I'm sure some of you out there have to be told not to drink hydrogen. It is also a flammable gas substance that is the simplest member of the chemical elements. So it's just a gas with hardly any chemicals in it. It will just look like water. So I had to do that just to prove how much it looked like water, and just to kind of show you like not to be done with it. About another thing about hydrogen, hydrogen in their fuel cells can provide energy for use in diverse areas such as heat and power, backup power, systems for storing and enabling renewable energy, portable power, auxiliary power for trucks, aircraft, rail, and ships, as well as specialty vehicles such as forklifts, passenger and freight vehicles, including cars, buses, and trucks, which overall, vehicles and equipment like that use a cleaner type of gas because they don't have all the chemicals that normal gas has. So what I'm getting from this is hydrogen is the cleanest gasoline that you can get. And because any vehicle or anything that uses hydrogen uses the cleanest fuel, because it doesn't have all the added preservatives and chemicals that normal fuel has, so I guess I would say that's a plus on that part. It doesn't pollute the air as much. And that's what people are concerned about today. Which, don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of air pollution either. I also want to make sure that whatever change we have is positive as well, with the way we try to change things, like with electric cars and so on and so forth. But so along with that, this engine comes from 5 Japanese auto manufacturers that all team together to work on this iconic V8 engine that should hopefully be a success, but we can't say for sure at the time of this recording. And those manufacturers are Toyota, Yamaha, Mazda, Subaru, and Kawasaki. So 5 manufacturers all together made this engine, so this should be good if all of them teamed up and they really worked hard to find a way to hopefully make this work well. So we'll see when the time comes how well it works. It'd be really cool to see Ford, Chevy, and Dodge come up with like a hydrogen power engine. This should be an inspirational video for them to start doing that if all goes well with this. But, you know, how sick would that be, seeing all our favorite American auto manufacturers teaming up to make like the ultimate 1,000 plus horsepower supercharged V8. Now the first reason why researchers really don't want cars using hydrogen is because of the cost and what they would say is inefficient use of energy. I guess researchers think that hydrogen is like a waste of energy when electric vehicles are the answer. I mean, I don't know. I would say, I guess, the material it takes to make hydrogen, they're also afraid, which is kind of understandable, that it would be in short supply. they're afraid that there would be a hydrogen shortage. I mean, hydrogen would be in high demand and the cost would greatly go up because of it, and it would be very scarce. But hopefully that's not the case. I'm not too sure how accurate I was on that. Let me know in the comment section if you have better reasoning on that than I do, but that's my best guess on that. Number 2, they think it's going to be way too dependent on fossil fuels. Let's face it, electricity and our power plants are dependent on fossil fuels. So electric cars are realistically going to require more fossil fuels to be used, and hydrogen, same thing. But I don't know, I guess they don't want cars to be dependent on hydrogen, even though hydrogen is a cleaner alternative to regular gas and diesel. But now that I think about it, it kind of relates to reason number 1, but let me know what you think in the comment section about that, because I mean, if hydrogen works, and I think just let that be the future, but as fast as EVs are, like I said, myself and other people as well are gonna miss hearing the sound of engines when you floor it, and even that supercharger, if you have a supercharger or turbocharger, where you have. And I hope car companies, when cars and trucks switch over to electric in the long run, that auto manufacturers find a way to recreate that sound for those who want to hear it, because there's going to be people who want to hear it. And unfortunately, like, it doesn't seem to be the case, because I've watched a couple Tesla videos on EVs don't make the same sound as regular internal combustion cars. They don't. I mean, they're fun as hell, like, when you floor them, but you also want to hear that engine roar as well, and that's like half the fun. But that's a whole other video. This project came off of a joint announcement by the 5 auto manufacturers that I just mentioned. I'll read something that they announced, quote for quote, that they would begin discussions for conducting collaborative research into positive avenues for expanding the range of fuel options for internal combustion engines in the quest for carbon neutrality. So what they're trying to do is ultimately not only keep internal combustion engines alive longer, closer to when EVs start taking over the roads more, but they're ultimately wanting to give people more fuel options that they can choose with their vehicles. So I'd love to see what type of fuel options that they can all come up with to keep hydrogen alive. So hopefully they will, if they really work hard, which it really seems they are. So, and I'm going to get into more exciting facts in just a second about how they made this thing. Now, as far as the engine goes, just about everything had to be changed, from fuel injectors, heads, intake manifolds, along with other changes as well to make it compatible to run on hydrogen. So hopefully these cars won't build up too much carbon in the engine. So I guess we'll have to see with that. That could be one good thing with hydrogen cars. For right now, Yamaha doesn't seem to be wanting to say anything else about this engine, which we can't quite blame them. But hopefully we'll know more as time gets closer. Maybe, maybe not. But one good thing we know is at least Toyota is trying to keep internal combustion alive, so that's a plus on Toyota's part. Yeah, this top exhaust manifold, I'm not too sure what it does, but it looks really interesting and cool. I've personally never saw one on an engine, but it's got to sound really sick. Yamaha says it creates a high frequency sound, so I would say it probably sounds something kind of like a supercharger, which that would be really cool. Now the V8 that they're making for this is also in the Lexus IS 500F Sport Performance, RCF, as well as other cars. The V8 is a 5-liter, so it's one thirsty V8. This engine is going to come with 455 horsepower and 398 pound-feet of torque. Now that is very quick. So it's going to be one fast vehicle. Whatever car it gets put in, it's going to be a fast car. Maybe not as fast as like any type of Lambo or Ferrari or Hellcat, but it will definitely move. I will say that. I heard that it's a bit down on power from what the original V8 is based on, so I would assume that the original V8 had more power than when Toyota and Yamaha added more stuff to it, so I'm not sure. A Yamaha engineer explained how this hydrogen engine is similar to a regular gasoline engine. He said it feels a lot different, and I'm going to tell you what he said quote for quote. He said, hydrogen engines have an innately friendly feel that makes them easy to use even without resorting to electronic driving aids. So that's what he had to say. Takashi Yamaha. He also said, quote for quote, hydrogen engines house the potential to be carbon neutral while keeping our passion for the internal combustion engine alive at the same time. So, like I said, he's saying that by switching to hydrogen, that we can keep internal combustion alive much longer, well into the EV era, before gas is unfortunately phased out. But hey, if we can extend it, great. That was said by Yamaha Motor President Yasuhiro Hidaka. I hope I pronounced that right. He also said, quote for quote, teaming up with companies with different corporate cultures in areas with expertise, as well as growing the number of partners we have, is how we want to lead the way into the future. So that's a really good attitude to have on his part. But it's good, as much as companies like to compete each other, so I'm glad that Yamaha and Toyota have a positive attitude with working together with all these other auto manufacturers to make a great engine, which we don't know if it's going to do very well yet, but hopefully it will if the circumstances go right, with hydrogen not being in short supply, which hopefully shouldn't be the case, which is what the researchers are afraid of, but let's hope it's not. Let's hope this can be a very enjoyable thing well into the future, and if that's the case, then kudos to everyone that made this engine. Yamaha says development of the hydrogen cars began about 5 years ago with Kawasaki on jobs to put these engines in motorcycles, believe it or not. So they've been putting hydrogen engines in motorcycles to help them produce cleaner fuel, and it seems to be working, I guess. I mean, I can't say for sure, but hopefully it is. I haven't heard anything in the news about hydrogen shortage, so that is good. There are reasons why Yamaha thinks that this hydrogen engine has the potential to keep gasoline power cars alive, and I can see exactly why. The sound, the power band, feel, I mean the sound of the engine, like come on, who doesn't like to hear an engine roar, you know, when you're driving in Mexico? I mean that's part of the best of the acceleration itself. So they're saying that they can accomplish this with being carbon neutral, and the quote for quote harmonic high frequency exhaust note from a unique 8-into-1 that's cited as a reason to be excited about a future hydrogen powered V8. I mean, it'd be cool, put this in the part where I talk about auto manufacturers teaming up. Toyota has apparently made hydrogen cars before. They made the Mirai, which is apparently the only successful hydrogen powered car, as well as the Corolla that was in Japan's Super Takyu Racing Series. They took a Corolla which looks like a Corolla hatchback. You know, you could just tell by looking at it. It doesn't look like a normal Corolla whatsoever. They took this thing and they modded it into a race car, as you'd see something in like NASCAR, and that's what they did. So hopefully it did pretty good. The company also showed a hydrogen-powered Gr Yaris that has similar technology features in the V8. Although their Corollas don't currently use hydrogen, Toyota announced plans to launch a hydrogen-powered Corolla by 2023, so that's literally next year, after competing in Japan's only one-day race called the 24 Hours of Fiji, which they used a hydrogen-powered Corolla then. I guess it was something that Toyota wanted to experiment with, and I would say that the results may go as well as they pleased, and they're going to go forward with this. It's apparently not going to be a fuel cell power car like the Mirai, but it's going to use hydrogen to power the engine. Although Toyota hasn't been quick with jumping onto the EV market, which we've all known, those of us who've paid attention to what Toyota's been up to lately. company's CEO, Akio Toyoda, hope I pronounced that right, first name, made a speech at last year's Japanese Automobile Manufacturers Association press conference saying this, quote for quote, "Carbon is our enemy, not the internal combustion." So he's saying that the carbon is something that he wants to get rid of because he knows that EVs are coming into the auto industry and that's inevitable. But he wants to keep internal combustion engines alive, and so do I. I hope every auto manufacturer feels that way, and it doesn't really seem like they do to me. I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong, but unless I'm not looking at the right stuff, it seems like every other auto manufacturer is just jumping onto EVs. I guess because they have no choice, because they have to by the government. But even though hydrogen has a long way to go to get into the mass market appeal in the US, which includes well beyond expanding beyond cities on the west coast of the US. But it's a start to still make sure that internal combustion stays for just a little bit longer in a future where EVs are coming faster than you think, but they're not coming tomorrow or the next day or next year. But they're slowly starting to make their way up, and they're starting to growly become more and more common. So, like I've already said in several videos, enjoy gas-powered cars while you still can, because you're not going to be able to enjoy them anymore someday. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, I really hope Toyota succeeds with this project, and I think people are really going to love this, and everybody's going to be buying up these engines in a world where EVs are, like I said, becoming the thing. So props to Toyota for doing this, as well as all the other manufacturers for chipping in as well, that chipped in with this. So I think all these cars with these engines are going to be pretty much selling like hotcakes. Maybe not within the next 2-3 years, but definitely, like, I would say 7 to 10 years from now. They're definitely going to be getting scooped up pretty quickly at dealerships. So I think that wraps up with this video. Well, anyway, with that, well, that's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you do not miss out on one of my informative videos or anything else that I put out. And along with that, I'll see you next time.